Greetings again, everybody. We're here with Ken Sadowsky, and he's kind of considered the beverage whisperer of the world since he's been involved with so many interesting brands, and we're so thrilled to have you here at Global Radio TV. Thanks for joining us and
Thank you.
sharing the repertoire of the portfolio here. And there's just so many new trends that I know you can share with us and explain to us the trajectory of what happened in the beverage industry, since your family actually had worked in you mentioned in a town outside of Boston with that. So yeah, share with us that fascinating story.
Well, I guess you asked two questions. One is what's happening from a trend perspective, and what happens from a trend perspective is really things are getting evolutionarily healthier. It's not revolutionary because it's the drink business. It's not like technology. It's much more like food technology has helped a lot of these trends happen.
Okay.
But you can't be so far ahead of the consumer that people won't understand what you're trying to get them to drink.
Right. But what exactly do some of these beverages have that typically in the past they didn't? Obviously, we were probably just ingesting Coca-Cola and things like that in the past, which were probably unhealthy for our teeth and our bodies. But now we've got this slew of amazing antioxidants and vitamin waters, and you were involved with a lot of these to be brought to market internationally probably, right?
Well, yes, some for sure internationally. What I would say is I've been fortunate to be part of really good teams. But in terms of functionality, some are healthier hydration due to function.
Okay.
Like if you think about coconut water, you can think about a single ingredient that is Mother Nature's version of Gatorade, I guess is the back of the envelope story there. And then like with Sambazon and Bai, those are antioxidants. And if you can keep free radicals away from your skin and system internally, it's shown to help.
That is definitely youthfulness. Aside from things like cancer and all sorts of diseases, even something like anti-aging, we could probably say it would be useful for, right?
Well, we don't make any claims because the FDA has pretty strict guidelines. But yes, we think the products are helpful in all those areas and also taste delicious.
Oh, they were. I've literally every week I buy 5 or 7 of these different things just to try because there's so much on the supermarket shelves these days that you don't even know where to start. But who did you start with originally? How did it happen that you were able to consult with so many companies internationally? And then I guess you can tell us who's who of all this since there's so many.
Who's who? How I started was really the functional or better for you beverage category started in the late 80s when I was in a family business, and it was an alcoholic beverage business, and I was tasked with creating the non-alcoholic or soda division at the time. And I just was, again, fortunate to see that better for you beverages were really what was happening.
Interesting, yeah.
That has evolved over time. Obviously, from the late 80s to today, there have been great leaps in both what you can bring to a consumer and then consumers' tastes have evolved. It's no longer Coke and Sprite and Pepsi.
So what year did that happen? Was it in the 90s? Gatorade came in 2000. Red Bull came. What was sort of the timeline in terms of what year these became commercialized at a different stage?
I guess I can give one example of a product that's sitting right here in front of us, which is Vita Coco, and people are just starting to say, "Oh, I just saw that stuff." Like they discovered it now, and that's what we want. But I literally started distributing the product in 2005.
Oh, wow. And
then I left my family business in 2007. And then the company got outside funding, and I joined the board, and that's how Vita Coco got its sort of push, was when they took outside capital.
And the vitamin water trend came before or after that, would you say?
Vitamin water had white space. Really, Smart Water and Vitamin Water established functionality to water in, again, I was one of their first distributors, taking our first load of product in late 1999.
Already?
And the company sold in 2007 to Coke.
That's amazing. So that's a really big deal. You've helped to broker all these really large-scale deals, and what would you say could be a tip for anyone else who may be also separately interested in growing their business, whatever industry they're in? Are there some parallels or some helpful advice you could share?
I mean, I think there are certainly core competencies that make consumer products companies successful. I don't know what the breadth is of what my advice would be good for. But what I tell people about the beverage industry especially is if you want to make a small fortune in the beverage industry, start with a large one. It's not an easy game. 97% of beverage startups fail.
Really? Wow.
So it's just,
you need to distribute. You need to have the capacity to distribute, right? Is that what the bottleneck is, or would you say it's the marketing, or what?
I would say it's a little bit of magic and a little bit of timing, but definitely the components of it that are, I mean, if you have a great product and you can get it into distribution, then you can get it onto store shelves. That's all what I call push. The pull is the marketing. How do you make something clever or sophisticated enough so that consumers want to incorporate it into their diet now? Like what you said when we led off this was, I buy 5 to 7 new beverages every week. Well, that's great, but a lot of people get in a rut and they're comfortable with their choices, and that's all they do. So we like people like you.
No, and the truth of the matter is, had I not been in that particular grocery store that happens to be next to where I play tennis, I probably might just stick to what I know. And but I do see that there's so many flavors, and when I looked on your website for Bai, there's just literally 50 different flavors and fruits that I never heard of. So there's an array of product out there to choose from these days, and I didn't notice that as much until probably the last 5 years, maybe. So it's been exciting, and yeah, I mean, what do we have here?
Well, you mentioned Bai. Bai is a botanical antioxidant infusion.
Great, I
We
love
have
that.
Hint, which is a great water. No sugar, no sweetener, no fake sweetener, just water plus essence of, in this case, blackberry, in other cases, watermelon.
Okay.
But just really healthy for people that don't want to just drink water. They can have something like, you put water with a little slice of lemon in it, but we've done it for you and done it in a consistent and effective way.
Love it. That's brilliant. It's like at the luxury hotels when they have all the slices of the fruit inside infused with a hint of flavor. So I love it. I actually have not seen this on the supermarket shelves, but we'll have to try it. So, and what else do we have here? We've got
well, Sambazon, an acai berry from the Amazon. These are both new labels. There's the founders are great, sharp surfers and great people, insightful. They've just brought in a couple of new marketing people and head of sales, and the labels are coming out. I think they did a stellar job, really, on the revamping of this. What's in the bottle hasn't really changed because it was really good from the get-go.
This is delicious. I haven't tried this flavor, but I've certainly tried a lot of their different flavors. So, wow.
Yep.
It looks like almost a coffee variation. Is it?
Yeah.
It's protein. Oh, superfood smoothie.
Yeah,
Okay.
protein. This one is more has more satiety qualities than the regular just drinkable juice.
What does satiety mean?
Meaning satiated. So if you're drinking protein, you'll be
full.
Right. You'll stay full longer. It becomes more of a meal replacement. That's
Wonderful.
the mission of that.
Okay.
For on-the-go people like you.
And because it sounds so fascinating, you mentioned that the founders were surfers. How did they bring it to market? That's pretty incredible.
Non-traditional. There have been a lot of really fascinating non-traditional stories when it comes to how these beverages get to market. But these guys were surfing in Brazil and said, what is everyone eating? They were really having acai bowls that come out sort of like an ice cream, and they put granola in them. And it was really a fascinating story about how they discovered it and then how they commercialized it in the U.S.
I didn't realize that. So I didn't even realize or make that connection between acai bowls and these drinks, because I think I just started seeing acai bowls, and I think I've seen these for a few years prior. Interesting. And I just came back from Brazil. I didn't really notice or see the fruit, probably because I didn't know what it was.
Right. Well, now you'll notice.
Now I'll notice.
Next time you'll notice.
Yeah. And does it make a difference when it's in a can as opposed to?
Well, that one's carbonated, so that one's got to be done in a different process than this non-carbonated version. But
Okay.
basically, product ingredients are the same. What makes this product delicious is 5 calories per serving, and it's a blend of stevia and erythritol, but because of the coffee fruit and the combination of flavors, you don't get that lingering aftertaste of stevia. I think it's the best tasting stevia sweetened product on the market.
Wow, I had heard of the Kangen water. I didn't know they were bottling pH waters. I mean, how did this come to be? How was this developed, or who developed it?
This is one of the non-traditional stories that happens in the beverage industry. This was a mall developer, real estate developer, who was in Japan and just met with a colleague of his over there and discovered that there was a proprietary process for turning any water basically into high pH water.
Like the Kangen water. I had heard of that with the machines, but these are $5,000 machines, so you can get it bottled now. That's incredible.
And this is actually a company that's been around for 15 years.
Really?
But for 13 of those 15 years, really just focused on Whole Foods, the natural food store channel.
Gotcha.
And they're now the best-selling bottled water in Whole Foods.
I have never seen
nationally.
them. Oh, wow. So they're based out of Seattle, you said?
They're based out of Seattle, technically Bothell, Washington. But I stay in Seattle when I go visit.
Oh, wonderful. No. And you had mentioned these other ones. So these are kind of protein drinks, sort of food meal replacements that have to be cold. And for the purists, sometimes people like to focus on things like Vita Coco, right? Because this is the most natural. 2 ingredients?
Right.
Is that okay? Best of luck. Any other last parting tips for people if they've got some other startup idea, whether it's related to beverages or not related to beverages? I know the economy and the globalization is happening so quickly now that it's really fascinating to see, even the entrance of new, unique products and packaging. I'm sure part of it is influenced by all these other cultures, right? The less expensiveness maybe to produce somewhere. I'm not really sure, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess to answer that part of your question is packaging technology has also evolved. I tend to focus my advisory and career, if you will, as a consultant on things that are super premium and premium because they tend to be healthier. But there's definitely a huge market for the down. What seems to be eroding throughout the globe today, at least in the beverage business, is the middle market.
Okay.
The upper market is growing and the lower market is growing.
What's in the lower market?
Well, in other words, the cheapest beverages. So tends to be less innovation there, but can be packaging innovation for product size to make things more affordable for that class of consumers as trial.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Well, I'd be very excited to see what we have on the horizon, and hopefully if we get to speak again or bring you back in the studio, we'll hear about some other new innovations or products that are about to enter in. So thank you so much, Kenny, for joining us, and it was
Thank
a pleasure.
you.
So
Stay hydrated.
okay.